Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com. Well, recently I've been obsessing about Schubert's Die Winterreise. We did our repertoire video about it, and we're doing Winterreise Wednesdays. So we're going to be talking about it for a long time. And why the hell not? It's one of the shattering masterpieces in Western civilization and an endless source of musical enrichment and pleasure and emotional depth and all of those things. But I also have been talking about Liszt's Schubert transcriptions, which are amazing. And just yesterday, I did a video about Schubert's orchestral transcriptions, including his arrangement as a piano concerto of the Wanderer Fantasy. But the vast majority of Liszt's Schubert transcriptions involve simply the piano and their song arrangements, and gorgeous song arrangements. Liszt was a master of song arrangements. His own Liebesträume, the three Liebestraums, if you want to do it in English, are all arrangements of earlier songs. And he arranged Chopin's songs and Beethoven's songs. Everybody's songs Liszt arranged, along with everybody's everything else, and opera excerpts and whatnot. So he was absolutely comfortable enveloping a vocal line with, the original piano accompaniment and inserting it in interesting ways. And oh my goodness, he did some amazing Schubert song arrangements. In fact, because I was never particularly a leader person, I think until now, it's starting to hit me. Why? Because I've been listening and listening and listening. And the more you listen, the more you get into it. And the more you get into it, the better it sounds. And that's how this works. So although I was not much of a leader person, I loved Schubert's leader transcriptions because I didn't have to hear someone screaming at me in German about a fish or something like that. If you know Die Forelle, the trout, there's this guy yelling about how happy he is to be a little fish swimming around. And I would much rather listen to the Liszt piano version alone than have to deal with the trout telling me things in German. Anyway, I like the trout now. I also like the Trout Quintet, which Schubert wrote based on that tune, which is also a wonderful way to get to have your cake and eat it too, as it were. Anyway, Liszt made arrangements of dozens of Schubert songs, including a whole slew from Die Winterreise. And one of his most brilliant, the acme of genius, is what he did with the last song of Die Winterreise, Leiermann, the hurdy-gurdy man, which is so bleak. It's just a repetitious, it's a bagpipe drone with a little melodic fragment on top of it, and between repetitions of that, you get just this very sparse vocal line. What is Liszt to do? To realize, it's the emotional climax of the entire song cycle. So he's got to do something with it, but he can't do a Liszt. He can't amplify it and fill it full of virtuoso figuration. A first-year piano student could play this thing. So he does something which is absolutely genius, because it's such a sparse song and so repetitious. You could just repeat the same, like I just did. You repeat the same thing over and over again to the point of monotony. He does not play the whole song. He transcribes most of it, gets to one of the later phrases and breaks off, adds a couple of transitional questioning harmony note type things, and then links it to a previous song, Täuschung, Deception. What an incredibly great idea. Now this song, Täuschung, is just the opposite of Leiermann. It's lilting and sort of waltzy, and but the text is marvelous. The text is, I see a light in the forest, and I know that it isn't real, but I follow it anyway, because amidst all the horror and misery and cold and ice, I have no other hope. I have no choice but to lose myself in the illusion that there is warmth and a home with a loving soul in it, and I'll find it if I follow the light. That's the text of Deception. And the music is marvelous. It only hints at the fact that it's a deception in the middle section, particularly when he talks about the horror and the ice and the wandering and all of that stuff. The music slips into the minor key, and we begin to realize that he knows that it's unreal, but he's willingly deceiving himself. And so to put those two songs together is a fabulous capsule portrait of what happens in Die Winterreise. It's such a brilliant juxtaposition, and I want to play it for you. I have permission to use it. It's Naxos. Thank you, God. God be praised for Naxos. So first we're going to listen to the two songs, and then we're going to listen to the Liszt arrangement of the two songs. I just love this stuff. I mean, I hope you do too, because it's just amazing, and it reflects it. Each piece throws light on the other in such a revealing way. So here first is Täuschung, Deception, with our however choice for Die Winterreise, Roman Trägel, baritone, and Ulrich Eisenlohr, piano.
Ein Licht tanzt freundlich vor mir her. Ich folg ihm nach die Kreuz und quer. Ich folg ihm gern und seh's ihm an, dass es verlockt den Wandersmann. Ach, wer wie ich so elend ist, gibt gern sich in der bunten List, die hinter Eis und Nacht und Graus ihm weist ein helles, warmes Haus und eine liebe Seele drin. O Täuschung ist für mich Gewinn.
And now, here is the last song, Der Leiermann.
Drüben hinterm Dorfe steht ein Leiermann. Und mit starren Fingern dreht was kann. Barfuß auf dem Eise wankt hin und her. Und sein kleiner Teller bleibt ihm immer leer. Und sein
So there you have it. Now, of course, in the Liszt arrangement, the order of the two songs is reversed, which also makes perfect musical sense away from the song cycle, because you have this bleak introduction to a quasi, well, is it real or is it fake, happy song. And here we have, let's see, who is it? It's Avon Yu, winner of the 2012 Sydney International Piano Competition. It's on Naxos, doing Schubert song transcriptions from Winterreise and Schwanengesang. So here we have Der Leiermann and Täuschung linked together. I hope you found that as marvelous as I do. I think it's just extraordinary. But there's another point I want to bring out. Actually, a very interesting technical point in Liszt's transcription of Der Leiermann. Der Leiermann begins, as you heard, with bagpipes. Ba-dum, ba-dum. But after those two initial ba-dums, the grace note, the ba and the ba-dums, goes away for the rest of the song. Now, Eisenlohr, here in this performance, he keeps the grace note in. I mean, I'd say he adds it. Now, this caused hysteria amongst certain Schubert lead aficionados on the internet, notably Viennese musical scholar, musicologist Michael Lawrence, who's really brilliant and knows everything there is to know about this stuff. And he went nuts about how adding this grace note adds dissonance and isn't what Schubert wanted, and it destroys the vocal line. You know, you went on and on like that. I happen to love that touch. I think it sounds marvelous. I love the dissonance that it adds. In fact, the work ends a bit on a dissonance, which is kind of marvelous. But it's not technically what Schubert wrote. There's an argument, which I don't know has any basis in fact, that the grace note doesn't need to be repeated, because once you start a pattern in works of the classical period, you just continue it automatically if you want to. And actually, there's evidence for that. There's evidence for that in lots of scores by Haydn and Mozart and Beethoven. You know, they'll start marking staccato and then they'll just drop it as they go on. And people naturally just know that the pattern continues and you can continue it at will. I think that's a legitimate point. I think that you can certainly do that because like I said, there's ample justification for it. But the interesting thing about it is that in the Liszt transcription, Liszt does it. He includes those grace notes all the way through the song. There's a couple spots where he doesn't, but basically all the way through the song, he includes them as well, thereby lending credence to the idea that it is certainly a legitimate interpretive option to put them in, all the screaming notwithstanding. And so I just wanted to close with that particular controversy. I mean, people in music argue about things like that, grace notes. I mean, teeny tiny little sniglets of note bits, and whether that destroys the whole conception. Now, it's actually a trivial argument, quite frankly, but I think it adds a lot to this particular interpretation, and many other pianists have also done the same thing, which also caused Michael Lawrence to really get upset. I don't think it's anything to be upset about. We should just enjoy each performance as it comes and take them as legitimate interpretive options, which I do. I'm not a textual purist in that way, and neither was Liszt. Good for him. So there you have it, my friends. One of the most brilliant of all of Liszt's song transcriptions of Schubert from Die Winterreise. Keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.